Kenyans, we all need to look at ourselves as that. But it is in the best interest of a political class that does not care about development for people to keep sinking deeper into poverty. And so when we even use the terminologies like performance-based budgeting, next year we're supposed to move to zero-based budget. Like we will wipe the template and start afresh.
Oh, God.
Okay? But you can imagine if this is what starting afresh means. Already, because of the division of revenue, we've been told you should be using the last audited accounts, yes. I think our budget should be using the revenues that we have collected previously as the target. That way, we are moving towards a surplus.
So that means essentially, Diana, that when I say in May of 2025, we have collected 1 trillion shillings. We have it. We can see in the consolidated. There is 1 trillion shillings, whether it is from taxes, because you've told us that any money that's going to be spent must all be collected in this bin, and then now it goes out. So we can see 1 trillion shillings is there. Then you say, through the country, we need to do 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to send children to school. We need health. We need 1, 2, 3. Allocate your budget. Budget, like the way the rest of us people do. Budget for the country based on the funds that you have available. This business of saying that we want to then go and have a deficit of 7 whatever, and we are going to look for it somewhere else, then should stop.
Yes.
Is what I'm hearing you say.
Yes, because it has to stop.
Okay.
That is the only way we get back to a path of recovery. And it also means it is time to be very harsh. We have you ever been nearly auctioned? Like your loans, wacha tutumia a woman. Because men, Dennis, sina ubaya.
It's okay.
You're the guys who go and mortgage land and so on. At that particular point, the little money you have, if you had workers, a shamba boy and so on, you let them off, you become the worker.
The worker.
Okay? If you guys used to... In my family, we had such a period, not being mortgaged, life was just difficult. We stopped taking tea with sugar. There was no chapati. We stopped eating sukuma wiki. We used to eat some other nice, but they are very healthy. That is exactly what it means. You cut expenditure and you start with certain critical things. If we've not done away with advisors,
for goodness sake.
And that is why we cannot even convince doctors when they demand a pay rise. Because they can see.
You can't tell doctors today not to take a pay rise when you're paying advisors 24 billion shillings a year and giving them allowances of 33.2 billion.
Exactly. So based on that, unless we are serious and look at the last PS appointment, why did we increase PSs? Even the Office of the Auditor General is now split between a Solicitor General and a Principal Secretary. For what reason? There is absolutely no reason for us to be going in that direction. So unless that particular process happens, and the people who would help us with this is Parliament. Parliament ought to become very ruthless, but all they are doing is doing grandstanding around
They're fighting for CDF.
CDF. Why? Because CDF allows people to queue and get a check for bursary. Allows their names to be published on walls of buildings and water. Oh yes, even water bottles. The shame. Water bottles and bridges. We have a bigger problem than that. This budget should not be higher than 3 trillion.
You see, Diana,
if we are to function.
Diana, you talk of a problem that we have, and if you look at what we intend to collect is let's just use the budget. It's 3.09 trillion. We have a deficit of 725. That means the government will be forced to borrow. But from who? Two people. That would go to external borrowing, which is 213.7 billion, and the domestic borrowing at 545.8 billion. I want us to focus on the international borrowing because already IMF has said what it has said. Probably we're not going to get loans from them. And IMF not giving us loan means the World Bank as well will not be on us, will not grant us loans. That means we are remaining with local borrowing. And local borrowing would mean that a setter would not be able to walk into any bank because I am a high-risk individual. And they will always prefer the government because the returns are good. What does that do to entrepreneurs of this country who depend on loan for their business to grow, and how hard will that be in terms of job losses because money is not there?
You've nailed it. One is we will now tax people more, and we will also still have to borrow more. The IMF is problematic because they need their own reforms.
Yes.
But the IMF comes to countries that are in ICU, and they're invited by the country. So Kenya, IMF was invited to Kenya after COVID. 2019 and then 2021. They realized we are really badly off.
Yes.
Of course, the IMF gets it very wrong in all developing economies because it says mop up revenue. They don't look at the expenditure side because that's our biggest problem. But now, the last IMF program fell flat. Not a single target was achieved.
Yeah.
And both the IMF and government indicate that the last nail on the coffin was the Kenyans and how you rose and spoke last year in June. So Kenyans keep rising. We must rescue our budgeting process and rescue our economy and our nation. As a result of that, and thereafter them trying to renegotiate with government, they feel very burnt. And the last program was vacated. It was not completed. Kenya decided to forego the last disbursement of close to 100 billion. Now, the only thing about the IMF is one, it's supposed to regulate international creditors and create confidence for other creditors to come and give Kenya money. It is also because World Bank eradicates poverty, they rely very much on IMF for fiscal policy. When we are out of that program, both of them become very careful. And currently, the World Bank is implementing a public finance review of Kenya as well. The IMF is running something called a governance diagnostic. So we will not get it's cheap credit. It comes with conditionalities, but it is the interest is below 1%. Okay. Now, when the IMF is not there, we are left to the markets. Globally, at the international level, we are mainly going for commercial loans. The last Eurobond that we got was very cheap. It was 8.9%. That's extremely cheap, considered cheap. But it's extremely expensive for a sovereign loan, a loan to a country. We will resort to borrowing domestically. 82% of our loans are going to come from the domestic market. All our banks, all the pension they have, the savings, all of it is going to government. At what interest? Right now, CBK has lowered the interest rate, but whereas globally, when you borrow foreign loans, the interest highest once in a while 8, it will be 4% and below. Domestic loans last year and previously have been on average above 15%. So 3 times more expensive. But it's also what Dennis has said. Right now, does your bank agent call you for a loan? No. It's too much work. And how much will you take? When you have tried very much, 3 million, 5 million.
But government
is very good. Billions and billions of money. And they will keep renegotiating, pumping in some money. But there is also a scam right there. Please, we need to analyze which banks
are the ones who are chosen.
Do they remain constant under one leadership to the other?
Indeed. These are the questions we must ask. We can't sit here and say government is doing a budget and citizens cannot be involved in the process. Not anymore. If anything, last year showed us that Kenyans can actually be involved in these processes. Diana Gishenga, we want to thank you for being here this morning. Lifting the lid on some of these things, we must continue to do so. Even if we learn one thing today, it's necessary that we do. One thing every day makes a difference. The Executive Director of the Institute for Social Accountability, Diana Gishenga, has been our guest this hour, talking budget and where we are on that. Thank you so much. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. The government wants all pensioners and their dependents receiving monthly payments from the National Treasury to validate their details by Saturday. Government spokesperson Isaac Mwaura said this will ensure an accurate head count of pensioners.
Please register through the eCitizen so that we have your data. If you don't register, the monthly you are going to be suspended from the payroll. So up to 10th of May, the deadline has been extended. Kindly register because we want to have the right number of pensioners in our system. In the proposed finance bill 2025, the government has been able to do away with all the taxes that were being charged on the lump sum and the monthly payments of all forms of pensions.
Mwaura, who was addressing the press on Tuesday, also revealed that President William Ruto had forgiven the person who threw a shoe at him during a public rally in Kuria West, Migori County on Sunday.
Our president has a big heart. He can forgive, he can pardon. He just pardoned quite a number of people from our jails through the power of mercy, that is in the Constitution. And so that is him. He is very resilient. But all and above that, we have to respect the institution of the presidency. It's important. I don't think we have seen anything happening like that in other jurisdictions. And it doesn't matter whatever grievances that anyone may want to have. But that is not the right way to express. We are a people who love to listen. The government listens. We hear and we take action.
Mwaura also emphasized that recent budget cuts affecting former President Uhuru Kenyatta, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga and former Vice Presidents Kalonzo Musyoka and Modi Awori were not politically motivated. He maintained that the move is part of a broader plan to ensure fiscal discipline and prudent use of public resources. The IEBC has received an additional 5.78 billion shillings in recurrent expenditure in the new budget for the coming year beginning July 1st. The electoral body would get 9.63 billion shillings in recurrent expenditure for the 2025-2026 financial year. Of the amount, 3.35 billion shillings has been directed towards general administration planning and support services, whereas 3.3 billion shillings will go towards voter registration and electoral operations. In Malindi constituency, Kilifi County, residents have urged Kenyans to support the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2025 that seeks to entrench the NGCDF in the Constitution after the High Court declared the fund unconstitutional last September. In their ruling, High Court judges said the NGCDF has created a third layer of governance that is not in the Constitution. MPs have been conducting public hearings on the bill that also aims to anchor the Senate Oversight Fund and the National Government Affirmative Action Fund in the Constitution. Malindi residents said the NGCDF should not be abolished, noting that it has significantly contributed to enhance socio-economic development in their constituency.
Nimetoa pendekezo langu na ile pendekezo hili pendekezo la watu ambao wanaishi na ulemavu pia. Ni kuwa CDF ibaki na Mungu watu ombee, ikibaki iongezewe pia.
Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney has told Donald Trump that Canada is not for sale as the president raised the prospect of the country becoming the 51st US state while welcoming Carney to the White House. The former central banker responded with a firm but measured tone after the president proposed a wonderful marriage of incorporating Canada into the US.
I think that there are tremendous benefits to the Canadian citizens, tremendously lower taxes, free military, which honestly we give you essentially anyway because we're protecting Canada if you ever had a problem. But I think it would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot.
Well, if I may, as you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale ever. But the opportunity is in the partnership and what we can build together.
That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
102.5 Spice FM. Kisumu. Traffic.
Quick look at what's happening with traffic this morning. Pretty busy in most parts of the city this morning. We're looking at it coming off of Uhuru Gardens at that interchange, heading out towards the city via Langata Road. That's busy. A bit of that also coming off of Magadi Road. And traffic coming in from the Karen side of things, touching on Langata Road, is also starting to build. Ngong Road also will take a hit from that. Naivasha Road was starting very busy off the jump, and we saw traffic on the Thika Superhighway. Still is the case as you come in from the Allsops Junction out towards the Pangani Underpass. That's busy. And also Kiambu Road was busy earlier, still is. Folks who are on Limuru Road this morning who tried to get away from the Red Hill Link Road on the other side then find themselves in traffic as you try to get towards Muthaiga Square, the Eastern Bypass, with quite a lot of that as well this morning as you head towards North Airport Road and coming off of Outer Ring as well. So we are in traffic hour. Let's see what happens as we get through it. Let's talk and try to keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
It's 8 minutes after 8 o'clock. Good morning and welcome. This is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, and we get into another one this hour, a very important one to do. But before that, let's remember some very special people, shall we? And you know what I've realized? That the best Mother's Day gifts aren't the loudest ones. They are the ones that show we get her. Woolworths is making it easier to say, I see you, Mum, with 30% off of women's knitwear and sleepwear available in store right now until the 11th of May. So we can think of that one soft sweater she always reaches for when the weather turns, or those comfy sleep sets that somehow make everything feel a little bit calmer at night. Woolies has said all that and more, the quality, the comfort, the elegance, all in one place. So let's be honest, no one deserves a day off and a little spoiling more than Mum. So why not give her the softest hug in the form of something she will wear and love every day? Head into Woolworths and make this Mother's Day feel as special as she is. Woolworths, the difference. All right. This hour, we get into a conversation with the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection. Dr. Alfred Mutua is here in the hot seat this morning. Good morning.
Morning. I'm very happy to be here. I like your radio station.
You do?
I've been here several times.
Yes.
And you've always been very, very good and fair. Mm-hmm. And it's good to be back.
Well, thank you so much for honouring the invitation.
How are you doing? How is the Standard Group doing?
We're doing all right.
You've been closing some radio stations. I hope this one will survive.
Well, you know, we can knock on wood. I look for a piece of wood to knock on, but, you know, we can just do... we do what we can every day, one conversation at a time.
No, it is important.
One song played at a time, and we keep it moving.
And keep on moving,
Isn't it?
Yes.
Well, karibu sana.
Asante sana, it's good to be here.
There's a lot to talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. Yeah, it's a lot to share with the people of Kenya. Mm-hmm. Kenya is a country in movement.
Yes, it is.
It's one of the best countries in the world. I've lived overseas. I've traveled to many countries, and we are very lucky.
Indeed.
You know, we have a country where many people don't realize that God really loves us. Even from the weather, the landscape, the opportunity, the process, the democracy, you know, the democratic process that we have in this country, the economic process that we are going through, you know, and so it's a very vibrant and I'm very, very proud to be Kenyan. You know, I started that program of Najivunia Kuwa Mkenya.
I remember that.
Yeah, because there's no other country. And, you know, at the end of the day, when you criticize your own country, the foreigner stands aside looking at you.
That's very true.
And you think you're actually uplifting yourself. I see Kenyans, they are basically simplistic, you know, idiots, if we call that, who go to other places and talk ill. It's like you go to your neighbor's house and start talking ill about your mother. The neighbor will be saying, oh, okay.
So
but then in the back of their mind, they'll be thinking, you know, this is such a foolish person. You know what I mean?
That's
you should go to your mother and sort out the problems, but you don't go running to strangers to criticize your own mother, because at the end of the day, you're Kenyan. And you see, people don't realize when you go out there, you're shouting about Kenya, you're insulting Kenyans to foreigners, they look at you, they don't know political parties. They don't know tribes. They don't know anything.
They just know the country.
They don't know Kenya.
This is interesting that you say that.
Watu iko shida. They don't see that there's a problem here. And they see all of you have a problem. So we must learn to
deal with that. It's interesting
and
that
the democratic process is so good.
It's interesting that you start with that because we want to welcome you. Let's welcome you officially because it seems as though some of the things that you're saying point to the conversation that we'll be having in a short bit. And we'll open that up just some. We'll welcome you with today's proverb.
Thank you.
Dennis will tell you where it's from.
Yes.
And then you can interpret that for us.
Yeah. So the proverb of the day today comes from the country that is Tunisia, whose capital is Tunis. And the official language is Arabic, but French as well is widely used in that country. They have a population of around 12 million people. And the ancient Carthage, just one of the historical facts about Tunisia. The ancient Carthage, one, is a powerful city-state, now a famous archaeological site in the area, as well as Tunisia is home to incredibly well-preserved Roman ruins like the Duga and El Jem amphitheater. I know you've traveled a lot, perhaps. And one of the things that next time you go to Tunisia, you must experience is their souks, their markets. Just go experience in terms of their jewelry.
And that's where we got to, when they say souks, that's where we got the word soko.
Soko, yes.
Yeah, because it's Arabic, souk is soko.
Yes. And our proverb for the day, a liar's rope is short, a truth's rope is long. What would you make of that?
It's very true because you see, time catches up with you. And I always give the example of there are people who are armchair revolutionaries who have never actually done anything, but they're very ready to criticize and tell you how to do things. And the truth eventually comes out. There's a man called Hislop Ipu. He was a comptroller of State House. He told me a story about his village, about some people were just seated and they were talking about how things could not work, things were not working. And then this young man came from studying and he got a piece of land that had a lot of rocks. And people laughed at him. And he cleared all the rocks, put them aside. He started kupanda kitungu. He pandered. People thought, what is this young man doing? We've been sitting here for a long time. We know how things are done. And eventually, to cut a long story short, eventually he used the rocks to build a house, got some cement, ended up buying a car and everything. And his life continued. And the people were mocking him because they were not seeing the end result. Because we have people who are not able to see the end result. I consider myself an artist. You know, when I make films, or when I paint, I'm able to see how it will look like. You talk to landscaping artists, they see the end result before it's done. But others are not able to see the end result. And so they are able to connive and complain and paint bad stories and everything. Now, when you tell a lie, it always catches up with you. One of the reasons I don't lie is because I read a quote when I was a young man that says that when you tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said.
Right.
But when you tell a lie, you need 3 lies to cover up the lie. And 3 lies to cover up each of those 3 lies.
Yes.
And it always catches up with you.
And it's never ending.
It's never ending.
Okay.
And I think the thing that people do nowadays, which they don't think they are lying, is exaggerating. And you can exaggerate and lie in the exaggeration. Unaulizwa ilikuwa namna gani, haya kaifafa ungemwona you know, you're lying, you're exaggerating. You know, you find a road accident, you say, how is it? Sema gai yani ile mbili ilikuwa imwagika hapo, and it's somebody who had a scratch on the leg.
Indeed.
You know what I mean? And here you're exaggerating. So when you exaggerate, it's a lie.
Okay.
And it always catches up with you.
Great interpretation of that proverb indeed. So let's get into this conversation, CS. The thing that has taken essentially the nation by storm over the last couple of weeks has been that in addition to the paces that Kenyans want to make to then be able to secure jobs in other countries, that one particular job program under the auspices of the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection would appear as though people paid money between the amount of 15,000 to 55,000 to then be able to secure jobs abroad. According to the reports, that folks who paid this money have either not been given the next step in terms of what they were supposed to do, or have not then traveled and have not secured the documentation that they need to go, and it has been called a scam. Is there a scam going on at the Ministry of Labour?
Actually, first of all, which report?
Well, I mean, we've seen the reports. We've heard from members of Parliament. We've heard from individuals.
Which report?
We've heard from,
let me tell you.
The question is,
I'm answering the question.
Yeah,
I'm asking a question as I answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
Which report? There's no report.
Mm-hmm. There are no people who've said anything about
There's
this.
no person who's paid any money and either not traveled or gotten their money back.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
There is no person who has been offered a job, changed their mind, they didn't want to go to the job, gotten their money back, or being told to wait, you'll get your work, and they have not gotten their work. There's nobody. You know, we are creating a crisis that is non-existent for personal gain. No, let me I'm answering your question here.
I would like to understand what has happened.
I don't want to go into perpetuating lies because I don't want to go into another person's agenda. You know what I mean? We have no crisis. When I got into the ministry, there was a crisis.
Okay.
I've sorted the crisis.
What was the crisis?
Now, the crisis was, over the years in this country, there are very many people who are promising young people jobs to go overseas, taking 300, 400, 500,000 shillings. And then the jobs do not materialize. The people who did the money, close the offices and disappear. There are all these rogue agencies that were there. When I got in, I had a meeting with all the agencies and I told them, listen, we are not going to play this game anymore. If you have a job for somebody, let's say Saudi Arabia, Dubai, Germany, and you interview that person, and that person, you give them a job offer, and they pay you money for the ticket, for all the things you're supposed to process, and somehow, because these employment agencies cancel jobs, they say it's taking too long, they give it to another country, or we have reduced, we were asking for more, we didn't think you'll get more, they reduce. Give back the money to the people who paid, okay? Or get them another job. Don't con them. And by and large, and I'm very proud that I sit here, majority of these companies, nearly basically 100%, have been doing exactly what I told them. I have deregistered companies. I have blacklisted companies, and I'll give you a list of companies I've registered who have not adhered to that principle, you know. But then it's also good for me to tell you that there are companies that are not registered, that are fake.
Yes, that are operating.
That are fake. Okay. But these are not companies, they're basically individuals who are basically criminals. You know, like people you've seen, you pass by somewhere and you see a land for sale, and you go there and somebody tells you, I'm selling this land and it's going to be like this and I have this, and then later on you realize that person does not even own that piece of land. That's why you see pieces of signs say this land is not for sale, because all over the world they are con people all the time. And so these con people, and that's why I want you to differentiate. There are programs you're working on, there are rumors and people who just want to perpetuate things. And I've given you a letter I wrote to the Senate about a rogue member of parliament, who will be, I'll go to the Senate and we're going to show that everything she's been talking about is lies, basically untruths. And she actually, I'm seeing her, she may actually lose her job because you don't create a crisis and exaggerate, You go to a place, it's like you today, you have to be responsible. You go to a school and a child has been injured or two children have been injured, and you go screaming to the whole village, watoto wamekufa wote in the school. You cause massive panic. There's this responsibility. So the companies who have been faking and doing the bad things, I'm dealing with them. But then I have a message to Kenyans. And I think this is very important. We have people in this country, like there are in many countries, who are basically taking advantage of young people. These people are not registered with the government. This is somebody who wakes up in the morning, decides to call themselves the Spice recruitment company, gets a sign, puts it on a wall somewhere in the country. It's a big country. Goes out there, prints posters. Before we catch up with them, people go. And before you know, they have been sent to Myanmar, they've been sent to people. We don't know who this person is. The only time we know about this person is when people come and complain, I gave money to this person, we go and look.
Yes.
So what we did is this. We have published in the website of National Employment Agency a list of all the registered companies. Those ones I have in control. They're under my control. I monitor what they do. We also even have a toll-free number, 0800 222 223. 0800 222 223. Before you give your money to anybody, call that number. Check the website. Is this person registered? We even have a list of people who've been blacklisted. Is this person blacklisted? If that person's company is not there, if that person tells you send me money on M-Pesa, you should be paying bank accounts, registered bank accounts, where we can actually go to a bank and there's a company that opened. And you say when you open a bank account, you have to open the bank account with the registration certificate.
Right.
So that you do your due diligence so that you're not conned.
Okay.
So it is very important to note that since I got in, we have reduced the scams that have been going on. The programs that have been proceeding very well are proceeding very well. Some people have been quite impatient. Maybe the communication hasn't been very clear. Once people realize, oh, it's actually not what we thought, they're very happy with it.
Okay.
Let me give you an example. We got the the Qatar government to open up opportunities for us. You know, before they had opened some, but now they're opening more opportunities for us. We got them. They came here. They got an agency. We hired people. 3,000 people were basically hired.
Absorbed in the system.
You know, not absorbed, hired, told, okay, you are fit, we'll give you an offer letter. So they went back, they sent us offer letters for the first batch. They said, we want to hire over a period of 2 years.
Okay.
Because we're hiring for construction, hotels are being built, so they want to hire in advance. It's basically called HR management. So they hired people, some people who they needed immediately, they traveled. Everything was done very quickly. They traveled. The second batch has been traveling bit by bit. They say, okay, in this month we want 50 drivers. Next month we want 20 waiters. Hold on to the nurses. The hospital is still being built. So slowly by slowly. So for the last 6 months, people have been traveling, and people will continue traveling for the next 6-7 months. So we told people, this is a long-term program. You've paid your money, you've done your medical, you've done your processing. When they sent us the offer letter, we'll call you, this is the offer letter, you go. You can keep on checking the stage of the offer letter. If the offer letter does not come on time and you feel that you want to do somewhere else, come back and get your refund.
Okay.
You see, that's not a scam.
Okay.
Because you've actually been given options. Because you can decide to go somewhere and then you meet the love of your life.
Now see,
and you decide, no, I'm not traveling anymore. You get back your money and your life continues.
Okay.
So
now, see, as issues that have been raised, I'll just go straight into it. Senator Roba has raised the issues to do with individuals who have been conned, and these are the same people.
Fake. She's as fake as they come.
Okay.
Fake.
These are individuals who equally appeared before the Senate and narrated their ordeals on what happened. I ask you, yes. What are the issues surrounding what Senator Oroba is saying? And based on investigations and claiming that it is fake, have you sat with these Kenyans to find out where the problem is? And why would you say it's fake?
It's fake because it never happened. You see, let me tell you, I'm not going to get it drawn into he said, she said game. I ran this ministry.
Yes.
People paid money. The jobs not materialized. They were refunded. The ones who did not want to be refunded said, give me another job. They'll give another job. Some have even traveled. The others who said, okay, don't give me the job, money back, but get me another job, I'll wait. And that's it. By the time she comes and starts talking about people have been conned, everything, people had been refunded. And I'll prove that in the Senate.
By the
time she's asking the questions, people had been refunded. So I'm not going to... let me tell you one thing. I learned a long time ago that, we all look like some animals. Somebody can look at you and say you are shaped like a gazelle, you are shaped like this, you are shaped like this. And there's an animal called the pig. The pig loves siwas and takataka. And I learned a long time ago, even from Mwai Kibaki, that if you wrestle with a pig, you'll get dirty, but the pig loves it because that's the environment of the pig. So I have always decided in my life that I don't engage in talking about people in the media. People especially who are lying and exaggerating and trying to cause a crisis, we deal with them officially.
That's okay. But let's look at the issues, yes. And I think it's important for us to do that.
I don't want to give me issues.
I understand, but I need to ask you a question
that have been manufactured by other people.
That's fine.
I'm not going to play in that pigsty.
With all due respect, we keep going back to the pigsty, and we should refrain from that for a minute while we look at the issue here.
Let's
because
talk about
you
issues.
did mention.
Ask me.
Hold on. Allow me to ask the question.
Allow
me to ask you the question.
Can I ask you something before you ask? Ask me questions where I can enlighten Kenyans.
This is what I want
about
to do.
How we want to develop the industry, what they need to do, how to get opportunities, and all that. Not to be caught in this pigsty manenos that are not taking Kenyans anywhere.
It is understood, but it is important for people to understand what happened for two things. Number one, so that they don't get caught up in a dragnet again.
Exactly.
And number two, that they have the vital information that they need.
Yes.
So the question here is, you mentioned that people who paid money and for some reason didn't get the job asked for their money back. My question is, what happened between them paying money and them not getting a job? Are you able to explain that?
Yes, that
what happened in that instance?
What happens, and this is now, we can talk about the industry. What happens in the industry is this. You get an order from a company, and the order says, give us 5,000 people. Unfortunately, the Kenyan system of processing is a bit slower than some countries. We are competing with Ethiopia, we're competing with Uganda, we're competing with the Philippines, with other places. So they want to fill a 5,000 quota. So as they fill the quota, they realize that other countries are responding faster than we are responding. Why? Because of economics. Our people at times don't have the money, they're not paying on time to get the visas processed and everything. So those jobs are given to other people, and you're told, you wait, we'll open up more slots.
Okay.
So at times jobs have been lost because of our speed of the way we process things. Other companies just decide, for example, what they are recruiting for has not come through. For example, there's massive construction going on in the Middle East, and they have targets. They say, okay, we are opening this brand new hotel, and we want drivers, and we want hostesses, we want waitresses. We want them now because the hotel is opening in May. Come April, you've recruited all these people. They tell you, the contractor has a problem. The hotel will open in August, not in May. So we have to delay the intake. But please don't, you know what I mean? Don't cancel, we'll do in August. So people are told the hotel is defined, it's in August. So it takes time. So that happens all the time.
Is this information communicated to Kenyans who've made this payment?
It is communicated. I think what has been happening, and this is where now I have to tighten the screw and improve the system, is that the communication system hasn't been very good. I told Senate yesterday, I'm going to write new regulations which will make sure that there's a time limit and there's a system that is predictable, so that once you pay your money, there are updates all the time, that come to us as government, but also go to the people you've taken money from or you've told that you're going to get jobs for.
Okay.
And then ikiumana kabisa, you tell people, I'm sorry, I tried, this job not come through. Can I move you to another job somewhere else? Or I'm sorry, I'm folding. There's no, but you give people what makes me really unhappy is when you find people who are struggling with nothing. They sell their land, they sell their property, they borrow money, and they give to this person, and this person just takes the money and vanishes. That is terrible. But you see, the good thing is that has really, the numbers have really gone down. We've put the pressure. I've made the DCI. I have a list here for you of 153 people and companies which have been operating and they're not registered, who are under investigation and got their files. And I'll be talking to the DPP because I want some of these people to go to jail.
Okay.
I want some of these people to suffer.
Sorry, okay.
Because they have been calling people.
You mentioned the slow speed of response. For example, a construction company is building a big hotel in Sharjah, whatever the case may be, and they need Kenyans. They come through your office, and they know that there's already that agreement between the two countries. They
never come through my office.
Whatever process they use, is just by way of example.
Yes.
Whatever process they use, has that slow speed of response, which by your own admission is a problem, then been dealt with? Because obviously you can see the problems that it causes on this side. CS, all it does is take a moment. If I have paid 55,000 shillings, which, truth be told, for most people, it's not money that they have sitting there. If they had it, they wouldn't be looking for the job in the first place. Yeah. So the response mechanism or the response channels then that are or are not there bears a heavy responsibility for this person who is waiting for information. What do you do, or what are you doing in the meantime to ensure that you can actually respond with the alacrity that is required for these people on the other side, whereby you're giving them what they need and you're appeasing Kenyans on this side who've paid 55,000 shillings that they don't have?
It's very simple. What I realize is that, first of all, there's a big challenge. There's a lot of bureaucracy. This is a government of bureaucracy. You know, we inherited the British system of bureaucracy. And I got in and I found that it took a minimum of 1 month just to clear somebody to be ready to travel. I cut down to 14 days. I want to cut it down to 10 days. So that from the time you take somebody's money and you start processing, you can be ready. For example, if they have to do medicals, if they have to go and do special tests, if they have to go and do clearances here and there, we cut it down, working with different agencies. Because the bureaucracy in Kenya just takes too long, a month, 2 months. Ethiopia, they're doing it in 5 days.
So that's my question. Yeah, Why can't it be cut down to 5 days in Kenya?
That's because of the nature of our bureaucracy. The nature of a bureaucracy, and something we've been talking about even with the president. And it's a bureaucracy that has become so process-oriented. We are a country of memos, you know?
And meetings.
You know, you don't move. And you know me, I'm chap. I like seeing things moving. So you find that something is sitting on the file. You're waiting until you get a memo for you to work on it, even though you can actually work on it and process everything before the memo comes. It's just a mindset of our public service system. And you go and you want to go to the National Hire Board, you put in your documents, it takes 2 to 3 days. You go here, you get in this. So everything seems to take 2 to 3 days to come through, instead of doing it in 1 day, which is a system that I hope we'll be able to get there. I'm pushing and curtailing it down. I have a lot of pushback because people in this country live with fear also. The people live with fear. Nobody wants to make a decision because you make a decision that you think you're doing the right thing. The next thing you hear, ESCC are looking for you. How did you do this? Because also we look at process. You know, we are more process than results. You've not stolen any money, you've done, but your process. So people have pushback. They're afraid. You tell them do these things, they're waiting for the letter. And so I'm trying to make the system much better. Now, number 2 is we have realized there's been, and this is a very good, a communication gap. You know, a communication gap. And the sad thing is the people who are complaining that, we paid 55,000, we have not traveled, the people are making so much noise, are all from one community.
Are they?
Yeah.
But what is that
nearly,
problem?
I'm just saying, yeah, it's a problem because you ask yourself, this is a great community, why is it only from this community? And it's because they have been incited. You know what I mean? They have been talked to, but they have been incited by somebody from that community. And you ask yourself, why is it so-and-so from the same area? Why is it not from these other areas? And I had a press conference, and it's good for you maybe to get some clips and air them, whereby young people brought themselves, the ones who are traveling, who traveled, and one of them asked and said, I come from this community, but we have to be very careful because tunachoma. Because now agencies are saying we don't want to work with this community because a delay of 1 week, they're taking to the streets. You try to tell them this and this, they don't want. It's either their way or not because they have been incited. Because that community is a very good community. They're very patient, they're good people. But you see, when you incite people for personal gain because you're trying to run for office or something, it brings a problem. So it's basically taking advantage of people, and it's quite sad because it's a hard-working community.
I want to take you to task on what you're saying. Yeah?
Yes, please do.
Because then again, you'd take an example of, let me take Senator Roba. Let's just have that conversation because she's the one here. Now, it is a question of she comes from a certain community and she went back to her people because the government has said it is creating opportunities for the people. And she went back home. Charity begins at home, talks to her people, and the people came forward and went through the processes, paid their monies and whatnot. And if at all the jobs that you say something happened and they are not able to travel, how many of these people that you're talking about paid the monies? How many have been refunded? And those that have not been refunded, what is the process in terms of making sure they travel? If you have the numbers, because it is your ministry that is the custodian.
Let me give you an answer in two parts. Answer number one is that this senator is not the only person really cares about her community by herself. Mm-hmm. She does, and that's a very good thing.
Yes.
I have the member of parliament for Molo, I have the member of parliament for Baringo Yakati, I have the member of parliament for Kilifi, I have the member of parliament for see, I have all the members and senators from all over this country are doing the same thing. You know, they're doing the same thing. Yeah. They're coming to my offices, they are going to agencies. I have people lining up all the time. All these members of parliament are doing the same thing.
So why would she have
they're lining up the problems, you know what I mean? And they are all in the same bandwagon. And they all understand the circumstances.
What's the problem if a community speaks up about what they feel as an injustice?
And all the communities are speaking out. There's nothing wrong with the community. I'm telling you, the community doesn't have a problem. All these MPs also are in the same bandwagon. You're not seeing them here making accusations. You're not seeing them running around on social media. They are not. Because they are stable. They are stable. They are stable. You know? So they are not inciting their youth. They are stable. They understand.
Why would you
if they have a problem, it is incitement because there are people from other communities that are even larger numbers who have not traveled. Who are the MPs, you know.
For some reason, the communication is being made to them and they understand.
The communication is made to everybody.
I'd like to take a break on this one, yes, and we can come back and look at these issues a little bit more, because there's some things that you've said we would like to then be able to understand that on a national level, because this is not about one community.
No, it's about everyone.
Kenyans from all over the country who are trying to find an opportunity to
And as you take a break, you have to ask yourself this. If all these communities in the country, with all these leaders in the country, are all in the same program, they all have the same delays, the same issues, why is it that only one community is making so much noise? And it's a lovely community. Because the leader in that community,
the politics obviously comes into play
wrong
here. So we'll come back and we'll continue with that. The Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, Dr. Alfred Mutua, is our guest this hour, opening up some of these issues. Many trying to look for work. We'll find out more when we come back.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Give it up for all the effortlessly chic moms out there. Get 30% off women's knitwear and sleepwear until 11 May. This Mother's Day, we're celebrating everything that makes her one of a kind. From her love of timeless knitwear to her obsession with all things comfy, Woolworths has everything you need for her perfect day. Shop in-store now. T's and C's apply. Woolworths, the difference.
Traffic.
As we are in traffic hour, let's take a look at what's going on. As you came off the Thika Superhighway, there's quite some of that traffic as you get towards Survey. Still continues for now. The Eastern Bypass is buzzing with activity. Quite some traffic as you touch on Outer Ring and then head out towards the Cabanas interchange. Shouldn't be too bad from now on out. On Uhuru Highway is where you find the most of it. Coming off of Mombasa Road, heading out towards the CBD. And then there's Wangari Maathai connecting the Thika Superhighway with parts of Westlands. So that's doing the thing. Coming off of Lower Kabete towards Spring Valley is also extremely busy, and Limuru Road still continues to be a thorn in the flesh of those who ran away from the Red Hill Link Road trying to find their way into Westlands. A little bit sticky still till now. We'll keep an eye on things and hope they keep moving. We'll talk on SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, right, at 19 minutes to 9 o'clock, we continue our conversation for the next 1 hour and 19 minutes with the CS Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, Dr. Alfred Mutua, and a couple of questions that we're asking. Why we insist on this process is that process of asking these questions and understanding these things, CS, is that there are many Kenyans who have either spent money, who have borrowed money to travel, or those who are thinking about it and would need an understanding of exactly what happens. Now, this 15 to 55,000 shillings that folks pay by your own admission, what is this money actually for in terms of facilitation? What does it do?
You see, they're different. One of the things that I've been doing is that once I got into the government, I realized into this ministry that people are being charged so much money for processing, because you find that, for example, you're paying for medical, you're paying for your ticket, you're paying for what is called a service fee to pay the HR company on the other side that has given you the work, you're paying for attestation of documents, you're paying for the visa, and so it accumulates to 250,000.
Okay.
So I figured, I said, how can I negotiate such that companies in some countries can provide some of these amenities? For example, you go to Qatar and some of the companies say, okay, we'll provide the ticket, we'll provide this and this, accommodation will provide this, I will provide a free visa. So the rest of the costs, for example, where you need to do a medical, you need to have what they are requesting for a guarantee amount of money that needs to be put down, blah, blah, is the one that now is quantified to that maximum amount of money that you need to ask. Because if somebody is giving you a job, they are not going to pay for your medical. What if you fail and you're not employed to that company? So you pay for your medical, you pay for the guarantee, you pay for the attestation of documents, and it is well listed and it breaks down the amount of money, so that it's not 70 or 80 or 90 or 100,000. So that somebody is making some little money, and majority of the money is actually going for work, which is a breakdown. When you hear people only paying for 15,000, you know what that means? It means transport has been provided, attestation is free, visa is free, everything is free, even that person is getting some service fee, so they're only paying 15,000 for just the medical.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So when somebody is being asked for 15,000, they should be very happy, because it means that everything else is already covered. So if you pay the 15,000 and for some reason some people go and others, the program stalls in the middle, and you're told, sorry, we're not able to go, come and get your money back, or we can move you to another country, you paid 15,000.
Okay.
You can't start screaming, you are conned. You're only scammed if somebody took your money, and when you said, give me back my money, was not able to refund you the money, that you took.
Okay.
But also remember, if you did medicals, and this is what, because this company is also, I need to be fair. I need to be fair to wananchi, but I also need to be fair for people who have families, who are running companies. In biashara, kama hii yenu hapa, Standard Group.
Yeah.
You've taken somebody's money, you have paid a lab. Somebody has gone there, they have withdrawn your blood, they have done the x-rays, they have done blah, 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 all those things. And then you say, oh, I've changed my mind, I don't want to travel. Then you say, I want exactly the same amount I gave you to give back to me. That is not fair. Because the lab has already been paid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the job, if somebody says, okay, I want back my money, and they tell you, okay, we'll give you back your money minus this. Or are you patient enough for me to get you another similar job? Because all you want is a job. But then if you incited, you say, no, I want my refund now or nothing. You're giving back your refund of what is remaining.
In how long?
It's usually immediate.
So if
within a day or two, or a week
today,
or 2 years,
you get your money back.
You get your money back because the money is kept somewhere. I've made sure that money is not spent. So whatever was remaining, the money is kept there. And I've not had challenges. People who say, oh, we spend the money, I have to go to the bank. I give them a maximum of 1 week to refund.
Okay.
And they have been doing refunds. It is sad. Yesterday something came up. I can talk about it. Something came up in the Senate where one agent said that he had people who he had migrated to go to another country.
Yeah.
And they were traveling from many regions. And somebody from that region, she told him, cancel everything. So he cancelled 36 people. And they didn't travel. They got their money back. They didn't travel. They are stuck with 15,000 shillings, 10,000 shillings, whereas their friends have gone, will be earning 100, 200,000 shillings. But because of incitement, he had to cancel because this person said, cancel, give back people their money, you're conning them.
Okay.
He gave them the money, he canceled their program. Others who are not being incited from other places, they're able to travel. So who is losing here?
Okay.
It is the young woman who is struggling to find a livelihood, who is and that really hurt me. Because I go around in this country, young people come to talk to me. We were recruiting the other day, and a young man, we went to this church in Githurai.
In Roysambu.
There were about 10,000 people. And we are trying to get them to be, and the recruiting process is going on. All those people, I met the agencies that are recruiting them, the jobs and the monies, and we are trying to find how we can support them using the youth fund, Uwezo fund, some of them so they can go. So the process is going on. So they are going through the list. Within the next 3 months, we'll start seeing them travel.
You mentioned that there were only people from a particular community who were complaining. There was a gentleman, his name is Godfrey Gathai. He's a carpenter in Nyeri County. He borrowed 55,000 shillings from his wife to then be able, and his in-laws, to be able to get a job in Iraq. He is a victim of this issue. We also see another lady.
What do you mean he's a victim? What do you call him a victim?
Of this particular issue, where that he paid the 55,000 shillings and he's yet to get his money back, but was also asking questions in terms of what was going to happen.
But but you see, the thing is,
allow me to finish this.
It's also good.
So that you can explain this.
No, you can perpetuate a lie.
I'm not.
A lie can travel around the world
before the truth has a chance to put its shoes on. I understand.
The question I have for Gidai is this: when you are not able to travel, did you ask for your money back and they said no? You see, that's where now
this is my
you
question,
call yourself, call yourself a victim.
Again, allow me to finish.
Yes.
Because before we went to the break, you mentioned that all the people who are complaining are
said majority of the people complaining are mostly from one community who have been incited.
But this is an
one example.
I'll give you a second one.
Give me 10.
No, I'll give you 2 because we don't have time to do 10.
No, we have time. We still have 10 minutes before the show. Give me 10, 15.
Doreen Biaki is a grader operator. She applied for a driver's job advertised by the ministry, and she attended interviews at the Kabete National Polytechnic. She paid 15,000 in cash for a medical, and despite initial assurances that the process was free. Now, that's an issue I want to ask about. Where she was told previously that the process was free, she was then asked to pay 15,000 shillings. Remember, I said that we would like to look at the issues.
So what is the question there with Biaki?
The question is, if previously having been told by the same people who got in touch with her at that she got in touch with, that the process was free, why then do we ask them later to pay a certain amount of money, in this case 15,000 shillings?
Yeah, because it's very clear. People tell you when you go to sign up and you go for the interviews, they tell you you're not going to be asked for a service fee, 50,000. You're not going to be asked for ticket, 45,000. You're not going to be asked for attestation, 9,000. You're not going to be asked for the visa fee, 25,000. You're not going to. All of those are free. In other words, 200,000 shillings out of this one. But for your medical, because nobody can pay for your medical before you get this job, it's 15,000. And most people say, yes, I'm saving 200,000, and thank you very much for going out of your way to find me a job whereby I don't have to go and sell my piece of land to get the opportunity. So I want to tell Biaki that you're lucky that you're in a position that somebody said, we have sorted this out. We are not going to ask you for these hundreds of thousands of shillings. 15,000, you do your medical. And let me ask you, why is it 15,000? Because these nations, they have designated special places where people go and do their medicals. They want the x-rays done, they want the blood test done, they want for these diseases, for drug testing, and that's a cost that is there. So the agent is not making any money. There's no money coming to the agent or anybody. This is money you're actually paying, and even some of them were not even giving the money. Some of them were going and paying directly to the lab to get their tests, and that's just how it works, So you're told, okay, this is the amount of money that has been put aside. It's been covered. We've been able to take care of that, but you need to take care of your medicals, because nobody is going to pay for your medicals because what if you fail the medicals? Who is going to meet that cost? And that's just an operational system. And I was very happy about programs. I'm very happy about programs where people are not charging a lot of money.
Okay, CS, when you talk about the Kazi Maju program that is ongoing, the government has been going...
And a very successful program at that, by the way.
The government has been going to these countries, negotiating and pretty much just requesting that Kenyans get these opportunities there. One would assume it is government-to-government agreement. And through that, the government as well, through your ministry, appears to be the chief agent for these jobs, in ensuring that Kenyans get these jobs. The monies that are being paid, one would come here because it is the government that has advertised these jobs, and we trust the government of the day. These monies are paid to whose account?
Okay, let me get back to you and tell you something. First of all,
because you've said that these monies are placed somewhere.
I'm explaining. You see, when a government goes and signs a deal, let's say, for example, we just signed a deal with the European Union on trade.
Yes.
It's not the government trading with the European Union.
No.
It is Kenyans who now have opportunities to trade with the European Union. That means that if you grow spinach, I was told you grow spinach. If you grow spinach in your farm, now you have an ability, as a Kenyan, that market has been open to you. You know what I mean? It's been open to you. You can trade there. When we go and sign a government-to-government deal with a country, it means that Kenya is now open and countries give quotas. All countries give quotas for immigration. They say, we want a quota of 30,000 from this country, 20,000 from this country, 10,000 from this country to come to our country. Those are the maximum number of visas they can give. That's a quota. So the government goes and bargains for a quota. But it's not the government that is going to be sending people. You understand? It has opened the way for the Kenyan industry to participate. Either you're selling pineapples, you get a quota for pineapples. It's like the AGOA system. The US market says, the US government says, we have AGOA, we'll take so much from agriculture produce, we'll take so much from your country. So it is not the government that is selling.
So a conducive environment is guaranteed for which business can happen.
So that's the first thing I wanted to say.
Okay.
Now the second, so it is now our agencies who now get these jobs and take our people there. So these jobs, for you, the opportunity has been open. For example, if you get an opportunity to travel and go and study, you find that the government, unless it is a direct scholarship, where the government to that government has said, we are going to take these people, we are paying 100%, unless it's that, and it's not that. They just open the way, then you meet the costs because the opportunity has been open for you to go. And remember one thing, nobody forces you to go to any country.
This is true.
Nobody forces you to travel. So you're told this is the way it works because there's an opportunity. Let's take Germany. Germany was open. The German government is not providing jobs to Kenyans. No, it's a German sector now can look for Kenyans to work in Germany. You know what I mean? And because we signed an agreement. Whereas now Kenya becomes a place of choice. So you get agencies who go, talk to other agencies, get the opportunities because they know now a Kenyan will get a visa and an opportunity to be mobile and go to Germany.
So then one of the roles of the ministry is to ensure, for example, that all of these agencies that are operating to recruit Kenyans to go for these jobs under which this agreement has been made.
First of all, are registered.
They're registered and that they're operating according to the law.
Yes.
And that they're operating according to the requirements of NEA, which is the National Employment Authority, and all of these things happen in tandem, and that you essentially are fishing out rogue agents who don't operate, right?
And that's what I've been doing. And
would the role also include, by the ministry, sharing all the... You see this information that you've told us about? It used to be 200,000 shillings. It no longer is. That upfront, you know that if you're paying 15,000 shillings, it's on a piece of paper. If I were to apply to a university in England, for example, the documentation that I would get upon my admission would be on a piece of paper. Every single thing that I needed to know about getting a visa, who I need to talk to, how about my tuition was going to be.
It's published.
It would be public. It would be there.
So
that when I approach it, I know. So this business of somebody somewhere told me I shouldn't pay, another person told me I should pay 15. Is there one information packet that comes from the Ministry of Labour under the auspices of whomever, agent, whatever, that is standardized across board so everybody knows what they need to have?
What it is that we have mandated the National Employment Agency, and it has published. It has published on its website, and just go to its website, and you'll find that it has mandated the agencies. One of the things you tell the agencies is this: you have to ensure that as you recruit somebody, you give them a breakdown of how the money will be spent. So even before you interview them, and if you go to any of these recruitment meetings, and I'll invite you to some of them, people go and look. They look at the piece of paper. They see this, how much is being charged. They say, I don't want this one. They go to the next agency. You know what I mean? They go to the next agency. You go to some agencies who have been charging 800,000, and they tell you if you're going to be a nurse here, it's 800,000 because you'll need 240,000 to do the board exams for that country. And that's a fee that you pay the embassy in dollars, equivalent of $240,000, $2,000. You need this. It's broken down. You say, I can't afford this. I go somewhere else.
Okay.
So all agencies are mandated, and it's part of the law now, that before you recruit somebody, you give them a piece of paper with a breakdown of all the costs.
Okay.
Beforehand.
And does the ministry have this?
Beforehand.
Does the ministry have this information?
We've told them. But you see, the problem is
but
this.
Does the ministry
yes,
have
we
this
have.
information?
Let me just reply.
Yeah.
What we've told the people is this: because it differs from country to country, and it differs from job to job. If you're going to an agency that is hiring doctors, their qualifications and their monies and their fees are different than a company or a job that is a job offer for a plumber, for example.
For sure.
Because of different fees and everything you're doing. And the same doctors that are being hired for Romania, the fees are different than if they are from Australia. Or if they are going to Australia or they're going to the US, the fees are different. So the government does not have a standard fee because it differs with the job and differs with the requirements of that particular job, and more say with the requirement of that particular country in that field. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So let me give you a good example. We get requests now in the Middle East for plumbers or electricians. So they say you need to have this certificate, you need to have this certificate, you need to have this certificate. Now, attesting some of these certificates, you need to go to National Hire Board, they put it down there, this is the fee that is paid. You need to take this to the embassy for attestation. The embassy will charge 6,500. So it's very clear. That's for plumbing. You find, okay, the total cost is 200,000 or 150, 170,000 for plumbers. If you're going to Australia, for example, you'll go and find out that the actual visa itself may cost even up to $30,000.
Okay.
There's the visa by itself. That's the cost of the visa. I'm saying up to, maybe up to 30,000, maybe less than that. And you find that the ticket to Australia is not the same as the ticket to Dubai. Ticket to Dubai will cost you 45,000, 50,000. The ticket to Australia will cost you 180,000. So even before you even been interviewed, already the cost is uko karibu na 300,000. But if you choose to go to that country, then you realize that's a cost. And you decide I can't afford it or I can afford it. Because also some of these places that are charging the high fees where you go to Australia, you may find that you've paid 800,000 or $1 million shillings to get to Australia, but your take home will be 600,000 a month. If you take a loan, you can pay that off in 2 months or 3 months. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it depends also on your salary, what you're going to do and how it is. So the government itself does not have set figures that are fixed, because that would be a lie, because they change and they're different for every company, for every country, and what I have said and I've told people is that we have to lower down, and I've told NEA, scrutinize when people are being hired and ask them, what is this for? What is this for? Why are you giving yourself a service fee of 50,000?
Yeah.
Yourself 100,000 shillings.
Okay.
Why?
And so those are the things we'll come and look into a little bit more.
Yes.
We need to take a break because we're at the top of the hour. The CS for the Ministry of Labour, in the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, is Dr. Alfred Mutua. We're looking into some of these issues, questions in terms of where that money actually sits, and then the process that it takes to come back is something that folks want to hear. These are Kenyans, Dr. Mutua, who are asking you these questions. We need to be able to give them the answers. We'll come back and do that when we come back from
and
this
I hope
break.
we'll be able to conclude. I have a meeting in the office scheduled for 9:30. So
well, we'll hope it. We'll come back in after this 9 o'clock.
Another
continue.
10 minutes.
Good
and
morning.
Then continue.
It's 9 a.m.
Sugar
Spice up your life.
Good morning. This is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. Labour CS Alfred Mutua has dismissed widespread claims that a number of Kenyans have been duped by recruitment agencies under the Kazi Maju program. Mutua, who told the Senate Committee on Labour and Social Welfare on Tuesday that his ministry is not connected to recruitment agencies sending Kenyans abroad for jobs, has told SpiceFM that individuals who claim to have been duped are lying.
There is no person who's paid any money. They either not traveled or gotten their money back.
Okay.
Period.
Okay.
There is no person who has been offered a job, changed their mind, they didn't want to go to the job, gotten their money back, or being told to wait, you'll get your work, and they have not gotten their work. There's nobody. You know, we are creating a crisis that is non-existent for personal gain. No, let me I'm answering your question.
I would like to understand what has happened.
I don't want to go into perpetuating lies because I don't want to go into another person's agenda.
Mutua also maintained that there is no crisis in the Kazi Maju program, saying he's eradicated rogue recruitment agencies.
We have no crisis. When I got into the ministry, there was a crisis.
Okay.
I've sorted the crisis.
What was the crisis?
Now, the crisis was, over the years in this country, there are very many people who are promising young people jobs to go overseas, taking 300, 400, 500,000 shillings. And then the jobs do not materialize. The people would eat the money, close the offices, and disappear. There are all these rogue agencies that were there. When I got in, I had a meeting with all the agencies, and I told them, listen, we are not going to play this game anymore.
And although he did not mention her name, Mutua accused nominated Senator Gloria Uroba of spreading misinformation about the program after she alleged that youth seeking the jobs have been conned.
There are rumors and people who just want to perpetuate things. And I've given you a letter I wrote to the Senate about a rogue member of parliament, who will be, I'll go to the Senate and we're going to show that everything she's been talking about is lies, basically untruths. And she actually, I'm seeing her, she may actually lose her job because you don't create a crisis and exaggerate. You go to a place, it's like you today, you have to be responsible. You go to a school and a child has been injured or two children have been injured and you go screaming to the whole village, watoto wamekufa wote.
A memorial service for Kasipul MP Charles Were is expected to take place today at the Consolata Shrines Church in Westlands ahead of his burial on Friday. Homa Bay Town MP Peter Kaluma made the announcement on Tuesday when MPs led by National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula visited Were's family.
His Honorable Speaker, I can confirm to you they have done a very good job so far. The time is very short. The arrangements are that we will go for the Requiem Mass, and then we will transport the Honorable Were home, and then on Friday, which will be 9th May, we will inter the body.
Kariobangi North MCA Joel Munuve, who died last month, will also be laid to rest on Friday, with his family saying they are satisfied with the autopsy report, which found that he died due to a blood clot.
Tulipata kwa postmortem, tulikumbali na tukaridhika kabisa, huko tukiongozwa na mama Recho ambaye ni mama yake mheshimiwa.
Na sisi kama kanisa ama mimi kama mchungaji wa hiyo kanisa, sisi tuko tayari kwa mazishi ambayo itakuwa tarehe 9 mwezi wa 5.
Na kama watu wa Kitui na Mwingi West tumepoteza sana.
Na kwa wakati huu tunaungana na familia ambayo imeamua kukubali matokeo ya Mwenyezi Mungu.
The Sacred College of Cardinals are today expected to officially begin the process to elect the successor to Pope Francis, who died last month. On Tuesday, 170 cardinals, including 132 cardinal electors, convened for their general congregation meeting at the Vatican. The first round of voting begins today, with no candidates having published their names beforehand, as this position attracts no open campaigns. The cardinals take an oath of secrecy, and Vatican drivers, healthcare workers, kitchen staff and anyone else in contact with them will swear an oath of secrecy to never divulge any information pertaining to the papal elections. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
94.4 Spice FM. Nairobi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
6 minutes after 9 o'clock into the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation. This morning, the Situation Room hosts in the hot seat the Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, Dr. Alfred Mutua. And we're looking at issues across the spectrum here. And when it comes to the fees that Kenyans are asked to pay, whether it is by agencies or whoever but direct, that we see the reality that the reason why people are looking for these jobs is that they don't have this money in the first place. They're looking for greener pastures. So in most cases, they beg, borrow this money, get it from wherever they can. Now, in the event that, you know, with what you've mentioned about it's possible poor communication, or that, you know, Kenya's bureaucracy is just from here to the roof, and that you cannot get people to these jobs with the requirements in good time, that they get nervous. If somebody has paid 55,000 shillings CS and a week,
even 5,000 shillings, you know.
And I'm even talking about a week, but 5 minutes later, you've not given them the kind of communication or correspondence that's required. Folks start to get anxious. So now, if it's 2-3 weeks down the line and they don't know what's happening, and that's it, they do not know. We can color it whatever what we want to say, but they do not know what is happening. They will get very nervous. So number one, when they pay this money, this one that we're talking about, for which you went to Senate, for which you went to Roy Sambu to recruit people, this money that they pay, where does it go?
Yes.
Where does it sit? And in order for you to say that when they ask for a refund, it comes back immediately, where is it coming from?
It is, for example, you see, you deal with a registered agency, which is a job, which is also a company. And you pay, let me give you an example. You pay school fees for your child for school. Or let me give you a better example actually, real estate. You've been told, tunajenga nyumba hapa, ziko hivi. You pay money, the money goes to the account of the company that is selling you that property.
Okay.
So that when that property is not built, it is up to the company to pay you back. And the courts have been very clear, the company pays you back. So it is not the work of government to keep people's money. It is the company that is registered under the rules and regulations, registered not only by us in the ministry, but also by the registrar of companies that adheres to the rules and regulations of companies. You take people's money, you don't provide the service, you give back their money.
Okay.
Standard operating procedure. It's like you enter into a contract, you meet the contract, or you do whatever needs to be done to settle the contract. So the money is kept by the agencies. So we have told the agencies, keep the money, don't spend the money. Even if you spend the money, we don't care. We just want the money given back to the people
immediately.
And I've been quite upfront about that. Some agencies say, okay, give us 1 week. We have to go to the bank. We had moved the money into a certain account. We had already paid. We are waiting for the refund to come back from overseas because we are cancelling. So, okay, 1 week. And I can assure you, basically, I'm dealing with a success rate of over 90%.
Okay.
You know, so when I talk about a crisis that used to be there, people disappearing, people now are very scared because I'm very tough. You know, I don't want to know.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to know that you've taken somebody's money, you promised them a job, it didn't work out. You should be able to give back their money. But the problem is, and here you are absolutely right. Are you absolutely right? And it's a lesson we've learned. The communication process has been poor. Has been poor. It's an area that I did not get into. I did not realize there's such a big problem in communication, but it has come to my attention. And so that's why I've said I'm not going to leave it just to the agencies to communicate at will. I'm going to decide and tell them, you know, with my officers, how to communicate with a timeline of communication so that it will bring down the anxiety. So that if you've given somebody your money, it's not working, you know, you're supposed to get a regular, communication every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks of this nature, in this format, not somebody calling you by phone that you cannot quantify. I want a written explanation, either an SMS, an email, or something that is quantifiable, so that when you say nobody talked to me, there's evidence that you actually talked to and you responded.
See, as you've mentioned about when these opportunities come through, one is expected to pay for medical, which we understand. But then again, there are those who are asking for more than the 15,000, others asking for 55,000. Is there a possibility for your office to come up with a requirement that all that a job seeker would have to pay is for their medicals, and after which the job has been guaranteed, everything has been guaranteed, the pipeline is ongoing, then they can pay the additional money because the job is guaranteed, tickets are here, you're going on a certain date? Is there a possibility for you to come with that directive?
What usually happens is this, we've already given a directive. The way it works is that you don't do your medicals before you get your offer letter. Okay? You don't do your medicals before you get your offer letter. Some, because the offer letters were promised and they are coming, and you want to move the pipeline, you do your medical as you wait for your offer letter, especially if you've been interviewed and been told you've passed. We had a challenge a little bit with some of the jobs that people had gotten, because I heard about the salary. The offer letter came back with a reduced salary. You know,
different from what they had been told in the beginning.
Different than what they had been told in the beginning, and I said no. I said we're not giving these offer letters. I told the agency, write back to the employer and tell them, even the government of Kenya said, our people are not slaves. They can't work for peanuts. Why go to work for, you can raise more money in Kenya? And so that also gave a lag of another 4 months as we negotiated. And it's me pushing to negotiate, because I want Kenyans to have good money when they travel, because you're leaving your wife, you're leaving your husband, you're leaving your children, or if not married, you're leaving your father, your mother, your sibling, your environment, you're going to a different culture. It needs to also be worthwhile for you in terms of the remuneration that you're getting. So we negotiated, and it went back to its levels, to better levels that were acceptable to both us and the workers. Other people said, even if it's been increased, we don't want, just give us your money, you get money. Let me conclude by saying, because my time is really rushed, is that this is a very good opportunity. And I want to tell Kenyans that the challenge of employment in the country is something that we're tackling. From kazi mashinani, you know, the kazi kwa ground, whereby what we are doing is ensuring that the construction industry is employing people, trying to stimulate the economy to hire more people. I'll be meeting the private sector to see how each private sector can hire 1 extra or 2 extra people, because it revolves, you know, in providing getting the economy to go further and people to get jobs. Kazi kwa mtandaoni, whereby young people, even as you wait for these jobs to materialize, you can actually go to the internet and make a lot of money. As you work, you know, for companies when they are sleeping, you're working in Kenya. All these people with the ICT, and it has not been popularized. I'm going to go around the country with the ICT minister and his team to tell people how to empower young people, how to get those opportunities. And Kazi Baharini, whereby we've got so many jobs for cruise ships. We've got jobs for people to work on the sea, as you know, working in ships for cargo and everything, whereby we are opening up those opportunities. And Kazi Maju, people going overseas for different jobs. All these are opportunities that we're working hard, because I want people to be employed and to be able to go and work in a good place. All of these sectors have their own issues. And all we're doing as government is moderating, making sure that people are not being taken advantage of, people are not being conned, people are not being misled, so that people can be able to thrive and get a livelihood.
What would you do better?
And so what I am doing is ensuring the people of Kenya that I'm about to go around the country with more work.
Okay.
And to cover the issues of money, His Excellency the President has really guided us with this money is called Uwezo Fund, which is to Wezesha. And I'll work with the MPs, because with this Uwezo Fund, instead of even paying for the medical and everything, or paying for some of these, you maybe have to pay for your medical, but paying for these other fees for travel, that can be covered by Uwezo Fund. So that now you do your medical, you don't ask for any other cent. Then you get the Uwezo Fund loan. Okay?
For the rest of the facilitation.
For the self, and then you travel. So it doesn't matter who your father or mother is, how poor you are. If you can afford 5, 10, 15,000, you unachangia, unafanya medical, unapita, then the rest of it will be covered by government. You travel, government gives you that loan. It's government to you now. you get that loan, you travel, you have a standing order. Within 6 months, you pay about a quarter of your salary, half of your salary, and you can go there for 2-3 years.
Is this still an idea in the minds of the ministry or for the president, or it's actually happening right now?
I am implementing it together with the Ministry of MSCs. Yesterday, Uwezo Fund was able to transmit into an account for 220 people in this pilot project. My move is that within 2 weeks or 3 weeks, people will be traveling with this fund. Then we roll it out nationwide.
Okay.
It's a fund with quite a bit of money. The same with Youth Fund also, which has been giving people. So I have been spending sleepless nights myself trying to think of how I can get majority of my young brothers and sisters opportunities to go overseas. I grew up very poor. I know the pains of sleeping hungry. I know the pains of looking for even 10 shillings. I know how poverty bites.
So that would look like if that money went missing
and
from somebody.
that is why I get frustrated when I see people lying and making a crisis out of something that we are not even sleeping, working so hard to ensure that justice is done and pushing for the rights of people so that more people can get opportunities. And I know we come from a country that is very big on activism, but we can activist ourselves to failure, So I think it's a right of every person to question. It's a right for every person to want to get information. It's a right of every person to doubt. But also, let us modulate, because you're looking for work. And if somebody has not given you your money, please report to me, report to us, report to the DCI. I'm going to make sure you get back your money.
So how would you do things differently? Okay. You talk about...
For me, it is the issue of communication.
Allow me to finish the question. Because now you speak about different areas where, job opportunities lie. And now we've looked at a situation where it could have turned uglier than it already is. Because public perception, whether it is true or not, is still public perception. And that is what rests in the minds of many people. How would you do things differently now moving on through those sectors to ensure that, number one, if I come and I pay 50,000 shillings, 100,000 shillings, whatever the amount may be, that I'm either assured of the things that you've said would be available on a website where I can get all the information. And if that doesn't happen, within a week, like you've said, I get my money back.
I think that system is already in place. That system is already in place. People, since I got into the office, the agencies that are calling people, the ones that are crooked, we've shut them down. We are doing investigation. We are going door to door all the time, making sure when we get complaints, we move with speed. That has actually been done. Okay. Even when you talk about perception, I'm telling you, I get so many messages every day from my phone in the office of young people. And actually, even when this whole manufactured crisis has been going around, I've had so many people tell me, Mutua, just forget those people. Can you come to our village and give us jobs? I was at the airport the other day, going to a certain town. I met this gentleman, said, my people are asking me, Mutua, because I can meet you to tell you. I was walking in the streets of Nairobi the other day. I met some young people. Mutua, hizi kazi wachane hiyo kelele, sisi tunataka kazi. People want to work. People can identify between propaganda and the reality. And people can identify, and people of Kenya are not stupid. People of Kenya are very good people, and they know when people are genuine. And people of Kenya know that I am genuine, and that I mean well, and I'm working hard. Where we have failed to do a very good job has been that aspect of people being able to be communicated to properly, being able to be told properly how they can get, and I'm correcting that. I'll have timelines and everything. But overall, if I was to give myself a score of how we are performing, we are at 80%. I'm saying if I was to rate myself, you also have to rate yourself. Even if you're going to do an exam somewhere, you need to go doing an exam knowing where you stand. We are at 80%.
Yes.
And we are going to get to 90%. But for me, my joy is when I see young people. And I take people to the airport all the time. And you see a young man standing there with tears in their eyes. And they tell me, not only, it's not even about climbing, getting into an aircraft. They have never even been to the airport. To them, this is a dream come true. You see mothers coming to hug me at the airport, crying because their son has been unemployed for 5 years. And that is what keeps me awake at night, because I know these people suffering, that I need to provide them opportunities, and I'm going to keep my eyes on the ball, and I'm not going to be distracted by slay queens, distracted by wrong people, distracted by people all over this country who may be commenting, writing, people may be doing things. I'm keeping my eyes on the ball because I have a bigger responsibility because I'm doing God's work.
Yes, there is Kazi Maju. Then there are those who are saying we want the jobs here. So perhaps what is your ministry doing, speaking with the other government agencies in ensuring that cost of doing business in the country is good, bureaucracies are blocked so that investors can invest in this country, so that citizens of this country don't have to leave this country, they do not have to pay these 55,000 shillings, that they get jobs in their homeland.
Let me tell you the truth, my friend, and it's good to be realistic. We are going to have people leaving this country to go overseas to get jobs for the next 20 to 30 years. The economic situation where we are over the last 60 years of independence, and that's entirely all the African countries. Even the richest country in Africa is South Africa. We've got tons of South Africans also going Kazi Maju because we don't have economies that can absorb everyone. No country, if you look at even the growth of Senegal, Singapore, for example. Look at the growth of even China initially. They had to send people overseas to work. The Philippines sends hundreds of thousands, not millions of people overseas to work. So this thing that the country can just expand and create so much work that nobody will ever to leave, that we need to grow the economy, it will never happen for a long time. But what we need to do is reduce the number of people going overseas by growing and expanding the economy, which is what President William Ruto is doing with his plan, with the Kenya Kwanza plan that I am part of, to grow this economy. The Kenyan economy we are now the 6th richest country in Africa. From 8th, we're actually sinking to 9th when we took over. We're in a very bad place, being blacklisted economically. We are 6th and we are going to improve. What does this mean? It means that there's confidence. You remember how you used to go for the dollar at 160, nearly 170 shillings per dollar. Now it's 125, 120, 128, coming down. We hope it can come down to 120. Means our trade. Talk to our farmers. People may say, this and this, but talk to our farmers, our agriculture sector. It has revamped with the subsidized fertilizer and the growth and everything that is going on. So it's only been 2 years since we took over. We've been putting systems in place. Things are cooking, and now we'll be able to serve our food.
I got to ask you a question.
In 4 years' time, ask us, what did we do in the last 5 years?
Let me ask you about one thing that you did in the last 2 years, is that for some reason you constructed a house at the coast. No, I wasn't really sure about what that was about.
I've not constructed a house myself.
Somebody spent some money to refurbish or to rehabilitate a home, and the statement came from you that you wanted people to be able to come to this house and then acclimatize to the climate that they would then experience.
You mean the Saudi house?
The Saudi house. You constructed it?
Yes,
spent some money to build the house.
It was actually funded by the International Labour Organization,
right?
Which has been trying to sort out issues. What we realized.
What was the idea behind that?
The idea is this. I realize there's a problem in the housemaid sector, and this is because people who are going out to work at housemaids were not prepared for that culture. So you hire somebody from Kadhonzweni or from Mwala, Masi, where I was born, or from any part of this country, and they have never seen a microwave in their life. Because first of all, they're coming from the village, they don't have electricity, or they have electricity, they don't have a microwave. They have never worked with a fridge. They have never seen a washing machine, whereby they have never known that a machine can wash clothes. They think that there's a dryer, there's a washing machine. They have never used a gas cooker. They have used a gas cooker, they've never used the other one. You know what I mean? They have never used a vacuum machine because they have never had carpets in their house or a vacuum machine. So you hire people and you send them overseas to these countries, and they get into a cultural crisis. They start putting spoons or metals in a microwave, it explodes. They start putting shoes or other items into a washer, it ruins the washer. You know what I mean? They don't know what to do. So we thought it is very unfair, it is quite unfair to send our young people unprepared for failure. And there's nothing as important as actually getting to do practicals. you have to do practicals. So the Saudi house is supposed to give practicals. The agencies are supposed to have their houses, but we realized we needed to have a sample for them to see what we meant, because we've been telling them, have a house that looks like this, have this, then you go
like
and
a
see.
model show
and
house
and then it's lost in translation. So we tell them, can you cut and paste? So you have a house where there's a carpet, there's a microwave, there's this, and there's a process of how things are done. There's a process of how you clean. You don't use the same rag that you clean the toilet with to clean the kitchen sink. You know what I mean? So they are practical. So that is meant to actually empower our labor force, so that when they go in, it's plug and play. They know what they're doing.
Is it working so far? Have you had people coming into this house?
It's function. It's at NITA. The agencies are looking at it. They're learning. They're going to put it in. People are training. People are booking and coming and training their people there. It's actually being put under use. And you'll see that the problems we had before are going to come down, because people are being sent, thrown into the deep end, even without a swimming costume, even without, you've never swum in your life, you don't even have anything to save you, and you start drowning. And then you start thinking
still on the same matter of being thrown into the deep end, we have too many a story, because we look at the beginnings of this process, starting here in Kenya, but then we also look at the management of the process on the other side, whether they're in the Gulf, whether they're in Southeast Asia, and we've had too many a problem where too many a Kenyan, for me, one Kenyan coming back in a box is too much. One Kenyan who's been abused in the manner in which we've seen them been abused is too much. So there lie in HR and management processes of what happens to Kenya or Kenyans when they go. You mentioned Singapore. Singapore also sends a lot of its people outside the country to go and work, with a system so airtight that they know where their Singaporeans are at every one point, who they're working for, who they're working with. They know that they can check into the Singaporean embassies or high commissions at any one point to figure out if there's a problem, if we want to make that comparison. But unfortunately, the issues of abuse, the issues of death for many Kenyans, the issue of torture that we see coming out of Myanmar just a few weeks ago are big issues, which would then cast a shadow on these processes that you're working so effortless, so hard on.
Well, I think
the question is, what is being done?
Yes,
to ensure that those processes
let me answer the question.
Tight.
There's a way you can ask a question and poison the minds of the listeners.
No, I'm saying it as it is, exactly what's happening. This is not poisoning.
Let me clarify two things.
The people who came back from Myanmar tortured, who showed evidence of what happened
and I was very angry at that,
because it's not poisoning the mind, CS. It is real situations of things that happen to people.
Can I answer the question?
Yes, please. I needed to clarify that.
Yeah, just 1 minute. The people who went to Myanmar were not taken there under any government project or program at all.
They went via agencies that are under NAIR.
No. Not a single one went under an agency that is under NAIR.
How did they go? With which agencies? Operating in Kenya?
By fake people, by going through the internet and seeing published jobs through the internet. They did not go with an employment visa. They went with tourist visas as tourists to Thailand, not even Myanmar. They are con artists who are going around conning people. And most of them, and I talked to the victims, and they saw the jobs online.
There's one who was sitting.
They said the jobs online, and the agencies that were taking them, some of them were actually travel agencies, not recruitment agencies that we don't even know about. We don't have their records. We don't know who they are. And so these people actually, they were taken advantage of, by scrupulous Kenyans, unscrupulous Kenyans. People are just crooks, basically. Took our people to slavery. Nothing to do with the government. And it is not only Kenyans themselves. It's happening all over the African continent.
Yes.
I'm hearing the same stories when I go talk to my colleagues from the African continent, even from Asian countries. When you ask them who they were serving with, they were serving with people from Europe and other places, as slaves in those places. So it's not just a Kenyan problem, or a Kenyan government problem. It is us now to do due diligence. Call 0800 222 223. 0800 222 before you give your money or agree to any job.
So what does that do for you to ensure that how you're going?
So for me, it is aspect of communication. We need to empower Kenyans more to understand, so they're not conned or taken advantage of. I am quite bothered when I see Kenyans coming back. you know, and
dead or alive.
You know, no Kenyans coming back dead. You come back alive, we can sort out other problems. You know, because you only live once.
Yes.
And if you go, you never come back. And you were born as a child, your mother took care of you. They didn't take care of you so you can go and die in a foreign land in a mysterious manner. It's an issue that has really troubled me for a long time. We're working on it. It's an issue that we're discussing in high echelons of government. But it's also good to let Kenyans know that according to the documents that I have, majority of the people who die and who come back, and most of them are girls, do not die in the household of where they were working. And it's important to note this. If they left here to work for Standard Media Group, they don't die at Standard Media Group.
How do they die?
There's an aspect called runaways, where people go work for Standard, and then after a few months they run away, maybe because of whatever was going on in the house or whatever, but they don't come back home. They get other quote-unquote illegal jobs where they work illegally in other sectors that are not. It's like you work in the crime syndicate area, you know, and you see this happens all over the world. People go and work for an area because you're not supposed to employ somebody who did not recruit. So if somebody is employing you and they didn't recruit you, they're actually illegal. And then you find that your medical is tied to the person who hired you. So if Standard Media Group here where you work has given you a medical cover and you quit Standard, you run away from Standard Group and you go hide and working for another company, you get sick. What happens when you go to use that medical cover? You find it's cancelled because you don't work there. And because the cover in most of these countries is universal health care tied to that person, they only go to medical, the hospitals are basically, they don't have private hospitals, some of these countries. 99% are all government hospitals. You have to use that card. So if you go to use that card or you get sick and you go, and they realize you had run away from your employee, then you get arrested, you get treated, arrested, and deported. But because they don't want to be deported, because they're doing these illegal activities they're doing out there, that's how they fall prey. And they are misused, they are tortured, they are raped, and they die. Because they were able to move from their original job to these jobs. And they actually are persuaded to do so by fellow Kenyans. I had a call the other day from a lady who told me she lost her daughter in Kangundo, from Kangundo, in one of these countries. And I called around to help this lady and wanted to know what killed this girl. You know, the girl has lived there for 6 years. So when we followed up with the embassy, we found that the girl died in this mysterious, has not been working for the company she went to work for the last 6 years. She moved away from the household 6 years ago and has been working illegally. But the mother still thinks she's still working for that household. And the mother says, wameua msichana wangu. But the girl died in a very funny manner with some funny men somewhere, you know? So it becomes very difficult. So we have also an education that we have to give to our people about how to live in other countries and the do's and the don'ts.
Is there due diligence that's done from government to government or from government to... I'm asking because, and like I gave the example, like we also often give with Singapore, that at some point with a network of high commissions and embassies around the world, that would you expect that a Kenyan is aware? I remember when I first came here, I had to register with my embassy, so they are aware that I'm here doing 1, 2, 3. But now if somebody goes to another country, are you saying that you can pinpoint those who may have been in the unfortunate position of death, for example? Can we pinpoint that all of them were in a job outside of what they originally left Kenya to do? We have been able to pinpoint the ones who died outside the work where they were. The others who have died actually in hospital. People get sick and die under good treatment under their workers. But quite a large percentage died away from that work they were doing. We are improving. I'm posting a new attaché to many new attachés to many countries. We're improving the system since I took over because people need to know to have a system whereby they can go and call for help. You know, we have the hotline, we have ways, and so that's why you see the numbers have gone down.
They're not the way they used to be. Before we used to see it happen all the time. It's going down and going down and going down. And I'm encouraging people, please come home. I went to some of these countries and these young people don't want to come home. They say, oh, I need to build a house for my mother. I tell them, but the behavior you're doing is not right, and money is not everything. I know we need to have a livelihood, but don't endanger yourself. There's so much unaponyoka one time itakuangukia.
CS, there's a feeling that the agencies that you say are rogue, Kenyans have reported these agencies to the DCI, but years on end there is no response to the concerns that they have raised. Feels as though it is the same government and the justice system that is eating and killing its own people.
One of the challenges I've had since I got into this office is that hardly anybody has been prosecuted. Yeah.
What are you doing?
It's a big challenge. It's something that we are addressing. Brought it up in cabinet. It's being addressed.
Yeah.
And the deputy president is going to chair a committee, which we are going to unlock all these issues. Why the DPP is not charging, why we can't charge ourselves. We used to have officers who can charge. What do we need to do? Is the DCI doing a shoddy work such that they don't have enough files, or the files are not strong enough for charging? You know what I mean? But because for me, I want to see people in jail, because we have to have people jailed, people fined, people, so that people know you don't do that. And also give confidence to the people of Kenya.
Give your last confidence
to the people of Kenya
in terms of hope.
I want to tell people of Kenya that mbele iko sawa. That with Alfred Mutua, mbele iko sawa. We're going to have our ups and downs. We are cleaning the system. The motivation, the feeling, the desire, we are on the right path. It is not as bad as people are making it to be. There's usually a very good explanation of how some things go. It can be much, much better. And we are going to communicate better, and it's going to improve. So we're going to, don't fear. Don't let usiuziwe uoga, tutakuchunga. Usiuziwe uoga na mtu ati anakuzia uoga ati nini. And don't listen to people who are entitled. People who feel it is either their way or no way. And, mbio za sakafuni uishia wapi? Ukingoni. Ndio vile tunasema. Mbio za sakafuni uishia ukingoni. Na unajua kwamba kelele ya chura haiwezi fanya ng'ombe asikunywe maji. Mimi hii ng'ombe inaitwa Mutua, itaangalia mahali inataka kufanya kazi. It will work. Keep my eyes on the ball. I'll not be distracted by noise, because I will not be slowed down, because my motivation is right, and I want people to have a better livelihood. You only have one life, and I'm going to do it with my chap spirit to ensure that you get that opportunity. Any problem, reach out to me. And I'm going to get some people locked up so people know we are quite serious. God bless you.
The Cabinet Secretary, the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection, has given us 1 hour and some change to then be able to look into some of these matters. We thank you for doing that with us this morning. And of course...
And I just have a request to make to you.
Go.
When somebody comes and makes allegations, there are thousands and thousands of people. There are all these people. Thousands. If you lined 1,000 people, they would fill this room. This boardroom I'm seeing here. You can't fit 1,000 people in this room. 1,000 people is a lot of people. If you say there are thousands, there are hundreds of thousands, they can fill the... can you ask them to give you the list of those 1,000 people? Can you also put them on the spot to, as a journalist, put them on the spot to qualify what they have actually said, so they don't make just reckless statements?
I think that because I think you keep going back to this.
No, it's not only one person. I'm just saying anybody who comes to
anybody
your show,
who does come in and talk about thousands should be asked
thousands or hundreds or whatever. Ask them to give you evidence, give them a list or direct you, so that you also put them on the spot, so that you're not used as a vehicle to peddle propaganda. So you're also not taken advantage of to confuse people. When you are doing it at goodwill, you're trying to get good information to help the community, but somebody takes advantage of your goodwill to confuse and cause a crisis for their own means. So it's also good for you to also not be used. Because as a journalist, I feel bad when I see you being played around like children. Because somebody's playing with your mind, and I'm thinking, come on, guys, you just need to ask one question.
CS, what would be fantastic in this case is if Kenyans came and paid 55,000 shillings and they got a job and they went where they were going.
And they do.
If they didn't get the job.
Which country do you come from,
If they didn't get their job.
Which country do you come from,
If they didn't get the job, to then be able to come back and get their money back. See, this is what we're saying.
Sorry?
Yeah?
You come from Nigeria?
Yes, I do.
Oh my goodness, let's not even start, my friend.
Thank you very much. Cabinet Secretary in the Ministry of Labour and Social Protection has been our guest this hour. Thank you very much. At 20 minutes to 10 o'clock. Asante.
Thank you.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This May, the stage is set, the mic is on, and the search begins.
Welcome to Next Superstar.
From raw vocals to big talent, the search is on for Africa's next hit maker. Next Superstar is here. Premiering May 3rd at 8 p.m. exclusively on Remo TV Plus, StarTimes Channel 56 or Channel 166. Buy a DTT StarTimes decoder for only 1,399 bob or a DTH for 3,199 shillings to enjoy unlimited entertainment. Join judges Size 8, King Kaka, Motive, and hosted by Amina and Butita on Next Superstar. Renew your subscription on DTH Smart Bouquet at 1,199 shillings only or DTT Basic Bouquet at 749 shillings only. You can dial *858# for self-service or call our customer care on 0730 710077. StarTimes. Enjoy digital life.
Give it up for all the effortlessly chic moms out there. Get 30% off women's knitwear and sleepwear until 11 May. This Mother's Day, we're celebrating everything that makes her one of a kind. From her love of timeless knitwear to her obsession with all things comfy, Woolworths has everything you need for her perfect day. Shop in-store now. T's and C's apply. Woolworths, the difference.
His laugh was iconic.
That's when I learned how to stop wearing boxer shorts. You know what I'm saying? You know,
his personality was legendary.
No, to be frank, yes.
With his unrivaled talent, he gave us countless moments.
Can you see?
Yes, I can see.
Right.
Yes, I can see.
No, he said yes, I can see.
Yeah, because his wife is listening.
And now, after his sustained battle with meningitis, that has left his hospital bill and funeral expenses total 4.2 million shillings. The legendary Edward Kwach is calling on all of us for one last laugh. Let's come together for Kwach. Please M-Pesa your contribution to paybill number 8061531. That is 8061531 with your name as the account number.
Because you'll celebrate good times, come on. And because my lawyer's not here, I won't tell you what the peace pipe is.
Nobody's asking.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Edward, for all the memories. And thank you for giving Kwach one last laugh.
One of the things that are in our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, at 9:45 o'clock, that was an interesting 1 hour and 30 minutes looking into things that, remember, are for the people. As we get into the last 10 minutes or so of this show this morning, how do you thank the woman who gave you everything, who cheers you on even when you failed? even when you failed? Who gives the best advice and sometimes always knows when you need a snack or a hug? This Mother's Day, Woolworths wants to help you say thank you in the most thoughtful way with 30% off women's knitwear and sleepwear available until May 11th. So if your mum's the type who loves classic style, cozy nights in, or both, you're in luck. Woolworths has handpicked pieces that feel as good as they look. Think soft textures, neutral tones, and that signature Woolies quality that she'll love for years to come. So whether you're shopping early or racing to find the perfect last-minute gift, just head over to Woolies and pick out something she will actually love, she'll actually use, she'll love, and possibly brag about to her friends, because mums deserve nothing less than the best. Coming into this Mother's Day, Woolworths, the difference. At 9:45. So we've had a while to talk with the cabinet secretary, and beyond the fights and politics and beyond the rigmarole, the question then is, do Kenyans feel safe putting it could be an investment, it could be money that you borrowed, it could be, something that you had saved for some time, or you even took a loan to put this money aside to essentially come and get a job. And the question is, are you safe the way things are right now that you will then be able to? The CS has done put some effort into trying to tell you,
You see, there's a question that I've asked him and is not responded to in terms of Kenyans give this money, right? It's because the government is considered to be the chief agent. Then, gives other agencies now the opportunity to do their job, right? So when the CS says that money is kept somewhere so that in the event that you don't get money, you're refunded too, he's not come out clear with regard to that specific question. Because then again, there's a lady as well on the comments who said when she was looking for this job, what she did do was pay for the medicals, and when the job was guaranteed and everything was in place, then he paid the balance that was needed. Is the government assuring you on that? He says, I am going to make sure that happens. So Kenyans are asking the tough questions. Sadly, though, the government is not explaining guarantees with regard to these jobs, because it is the government that comes forth and says, we have gone to government ABCD, we have discussed about these jobs, and we are coming to our people and tell them there are jobs in this country. So what is the government doing in making sure that the jobs they have advertised to Kenyans are actually gotten and they are legitimate, is where there is a disconnect.
Look, I think we always get to the place whereby the one place where governments fail, and credit to any government, is that the one place that government fails is communication. It's the place that gets the least amount of budget. It's the place that gets, a lot of the most interesting people thrown into that place to then be able to talk. And I'm talking about communication departments, even within ministries, communication departments for the government overall. That you could be doing a very prudent thing, but because you don't have your communication set up properly, it would appear as though you're trying to scam or hoodwink people. And that's exactly what it looks like today, because that's what I'm talking about. Ask somebody for 1,000 shillings today, and then they try to get it. Then they give it to you. And 5 minutes later, you're not telling them how that money has actually worked. They're going to get nervous. I keep telling you guys about the story when I took my mom to the airport one night. And you see these girls, innocent 17, 18-year-old girls. They don't know what fate meets them beyond that conveyor belt. But they've put their trust and entire money in the hands of one person, shouldered by government. And you need to then be able to ask the question. I don't believe that the people who went to the Senate floor the other day had nothing else to do where they came from. And that would have been something that, because the CS was at Senate, he had to answer those tough questions. What did he answer? If you have not gone and you want your money back, we'll give it back to you. If you have not gone and you still want us to place you somewhere else, we'll place you somewhere else. What I'm saying is that it didn't take Senate to call him for him to say that.
Yeah.
That those things should have been said before.
And you see, when there's a problem that I had with him with regard to the issue to do with the community, because then again, we all come from somewhere. And when an individual, say, let's take Senator Orobo, for example, goes back to her people and tells them there are job opportunities that the government that I serve in, the government that I trust in, has said there are jobs. I'm coming to my people and tell you, those who are unemployed, here's an opportunity. And if thousands and thousands of the community come forth and take advantage of this position, and when they start complaining as a community, there is no problem whatsoever about that. The question should be, how is the government taking care of its people, regardless whether it's an individual or a community? It does not matter. Do right by the people.
Should we have programs like this where there is a much admitted excess of government bureaucracy when it comes to dealing with some of these things? Because I think from his admission, there are issues whereby, there's bureaucracy when there is a job, when there are jobs available that people need Kenya to move with speed, and then we find that doesn't happen, and then it lands people in when they've paid 50,000 plus 100,000 shillings and they can't get the job. So if 1 + 1 = 1, that two nations have signed together,
yes,
we have jobs. We want you to present people for the jobs. This nation has an excess of bureaucracy. For me, it seems pretty simple. Cut down on the bureaucracy so that you can get this thing done.
You know what the CS has just admitted is that the government itself is letting itself down.
Shooting itself in the foot.
In the foot. Because you say we have so many bureaucracies, we are failing in communicating and whatnot. And one would ask, if you know where the problem is, why don't fix it? You don't need to come to SpiceFM to say that we are having bureaucracies and you're fixing it. Fix it first, because at the end of the day, we're talking about lives at stake. We're talking about people who've taken debt. We're talking about promises that are being shattered. We're talking about individuals who do not know how to even start paying that debt, because then again, I've taken debt with the promise that I'll get the job and I'll start paying you back. Government is silent on that. The bureaucracies we're talking about shouldn't be there. It is the very same government that is perpetrating the bureaucracies that is letting down Kenyans.
I keep saying it's not anti-government, it's pro-people.
It's pro-people.
And that if there are programs that are set up essentially to help Kenyans, that it's clear that at this point, Kenya is not going to provide the number of jobs that are needed for the Kenyans who need the jobs. Right? That is it's a very tall order. It's not going to happen now. If anything is being done, it's something that's going to be quite long term. And so when you do have these kind of bilateral agreements from country to country, then it behoves you to do everything that you can to ensure that everything that is necessary for those things to take place are actually taking place.
Yeah.
If you don't, it is counterproductive, it is counterintuitive.
Yeah.
That you know that there are those who have said, okay, well, we have an aging population, we have a dwindling, young population. We need to have able-bodied people who can work. If you have that kind of agreement, you don't just send your people there. You have to ensure that them going there, the process is secure.
Yeah.
You have to ensure that while they are there, that they're actually then able to make sure that they are protected and that they don't go into a situation whereby they show up in a box or are abused or tortured. And that's what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, it's you see, everything that we've been talking about here, it is a project that is being pushed by the government. It is not the agencies. It is the government who's going to negotiate and then giving all those opportunities to the agencies. Therefore, it is a government-led project. So the government should come forward and what's the process of application? Where do you go to? Who are the agencies that we have mandated to do these jobs? And even go further and say stuff like insurance. And when you go to these countries outside, you're asked to have your own insurance.
Yes, you do.
Right here, we are paying for SHA. When you're going there, how's the government ensure that you have proper insurance, that all these things are checked into, or is it at the mercies of the agencies who do not have proper communication according to the CS? There's a lot more that needs to be done. And dismissing these issues that are being raised by Kenyans, even if it was the 1,000 people from that specific community that he says, it is okay, fix the problem. But then again, there's something that he said, that there is a certain international employer who said, because these community people are complaining, cancel all those and give it to this other community. How would an international employer know our communities in Kenya and who exactly is complaining?
How would they? If not for?
If not for us to communicate that.
To share that information. You know, oftentimes we think about, we talk about the fact that we need, if there is a thought out in the public that people have given money and that we need everybody to come out and say. And I keep saying that one victim is enough for you to shed light on an issue. That one person who spent money that he borrowed from his wife or in-laws or whomever, where this money, or he got his wife to put the money together for a job that did not materialize, or that communication was not shared with him, and then he got anxious and nervous in terms of what was going to happen, is enough. And that's what I'm saying. It is enough. Mr. Givai, who comes out, or Miss Doris, who comes and says that this happened to me, it is enough for you to say, hang on a minute, what is actually going on? We know what the system looks like. We've heard what it does. When we talk about labor and social protection, these are some of the things that we bring to the fore. What it does call upon each and every one of us to then be able to do is to be, as we say in this day and age, is to be woke. Ask questions. Push. There are some places where they're being blacklisted in our minds today, where you're saying, no, if you hear that there's a job in this area, be very careful about where you're going to. If you're on the NAIA website, for example, and you see that there's an agent speaking to you that you do not know whether they're still in operation, ask. Call. What did he say? 0800 222 333.
Yes.
Call the number.
222 223.
That one. 222 223. Call the number. It's about time where people will not be able to walk all over you anymore. Ask questions. If you're in doubt, refuse.
Yeah, and I think even the government itself needs to do better by the people, in the sense that there's an individual here who said they reported a certain agency, and years later there's nothing that has been done with regard to that agency. So there is the aspect of, I have been let down, I have been stolen from, I have gone to the DCI investigative agencies to look into this matter and ensure that right is done by me. But it is months later and there is no response. The agency is still there. And Kenyans are asking, to whom do I go to? Because these jobs are advertised by the same government who are mandated to investigate and do right by me. So when Kenyans are complaining, don't dismiss them. Act. Fix it. But then again, we will take Kenyans abroad. International labor migration will always be there. We agree. But the sole purpose of any government is providing job opportunities in the country so that its citizenry can play a role in building its economies and making the situations better in the country. Because remember, Kenyans will go outside fine. They will pay taxes out there. They will build those nations. We need to look at how we are improving on our situation in terms of good working environment, lowering taxes, making it easier and cheaper for power in the country so that manufacturers and investors can come in the country and employ these Kenyans who are leaving this country to go outside so that we're able to build this country. Because unless we fix our internal problems, there is no day when we'll ever say that we have sorted out our issues.
Well, this is part of the conversation that we hear. These are some of the things that we definitely need to have brought to the fore as we discuss these matters back and forth. I mean, good to hear and see what your thoughts are about all of these things. Good to understand that Kenyans are plugged in when it comes to some of these matters. I think it's also very important for some of these things not to take them lying low. It is important for us to see that as these conversations come out into the open, that you actually have an opinion and that you make it known and that you are protected, that it doesn't matter where you go, it doesn't matter what you do, that if you were silent about some of these things that people may tend to suffer in one way or another, then you actually are at a loss. Keeping quiet an option?
No, it can never be an option. Speaking up is an option. And yes, I see Kenyans are asking about us looking for Kenyans who've been affected. Perhaps that's a challenge to us. We will look for those documents. We'll look for Kenyans and we'll have them speak so that it's not dismissed as an isolated issue or we are being anti-government. we are pro-people. And these are conversations that must continue because, like you say, one case of one person whose money has been taken and has not been refunded, the job has not materialized as had been promised by the government, by the agencies, is reason enough for us to rise up, complain, and demand that right is done by the Kenyans and that the problems are fixed.
That has been Kenya's biggest conversation this morning, looking into very many matters that have to be discussed out into the open. We do this every day, and we'll ask the questions, we'll push the agendas, and we'll make sure that those who are comfortable are afflicted and those who are afflicted be made comfortable. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. Good morning. It's 10 a.m.
We shall see you tomorrow. So as we say, may the road rise to meet you. May the wind constantly be at your back. Will you be half an eye in heaven? Before that, the bloody devil knows that you are dead. Peace.
Spice up your life